What's going on, guys? If you have been a fan of Elite FTS for long enough, you have seen a bar like this in Dave's videos, in guest videos. We had Juji squatting in our spider version of this bar, but we've never really gone over what this bar is and how you can use it in your training. You do not have to be a high-level powerlifter to get benefit out of this bar. Actually, as an aside to this video, I'll post up above Nate Harvey going through a workout utilizing this bar that you'll find very, very beneficial. But make sure you watch to the end for that so that you can make sure that you get the most out of the information about this bar and how to implement it into your training. So first and foremost, what is this bar? This is the Elite FTS rackable cambered bar. Pretty straightforward name, right? Rackable, so it can be in a monolift, it can be in a regular rack. Cambered, that's this part here, bar, right? So most of the time you're gonna see people utilizing this for squats, but again, we're gonna be going over a few uses of this bar that you may not have seen before, so stick around for that. Why does this bar exist? Well, a couple big reasons why this bar exists. First and foremost, it changes the center of gravity of a squat, right? So when you have a big camber like this, you'll see in the monolift, it has a tendency of oscillating, right? Front to back, forcing you to stabilize more, forcing you to focus in on your form. When you're training with a straight bar all year long, you're gonna find that you're gonna run into a lot of issues with your shoulders, or you just need a little bit of a break. And this is a great variation that you can implement in your training from off season or during your training or during your prep where you're trying to really focus in on your technique. But first and foremost, the camber is that oscillating effect. So let me show you here. So when I put this bar on my back, right, you'll notice a couple things. When I go down to the box, and again, you don't need to use a box squat for this, just for this purpose I am. When I go down to the box, the bar will want to swing back, and as I move forward, that weight's gonna wanna kick me forward, right? So that back and forth, that oscillation is going to force you out of position. So it's an entirely new training stimulus. It's an entirely new feeling, and if you've never felt it before, it's probably gonna kick your ass. Besides that oscillation, as you notice, my hand placement and my hand position was in a lower spot, right? So I had mentioned shoulder pain and shoulder issues. If you're a smaller human, you can really bring those hands nice and tight to your shoulders. But what happens with continued pressing, whether it's overhead pressing or bench, as well as that really tight position on squats, you may start to get some issues in your shoulders, you may get some issues in your elbows, and having a bar like this in your collection is going to be a great way for you to continue training, working on your lower body, while taking a lot of that pressure off of your elbows and your shoulders. So let me demonstrate again. You can hold this bar in a couple different spots. You can hold it on the camber like such. You can hold it out to the sides if you're a little bit bigger. But if, for example, you just want a little bit of a break on your shoulders, you can hold it on that camber as well. What you'll notice is with your hand position, it kind of impacts how you need to stabilize this bar. But for most people, most of the time, holding the camber or holding right in that corner is gonna help you stabilize. So what we'll do, how you implement this into your program, or how do you actually execute a cambered squat, right? So as we know, this bar is gonna kick you out of position. This bar wants to kick you forward and backwards and forces you to stabilize. Number one tip I want you to utilize when you are using a cambered squat bar for your training is slow the movement down. The faster you go with this bar, the more this bar is gonna kick you out of position. And what you'll notice as you try to drive that force into the ground, this bar is gonna wanna kick you forward and backwards, and therefore is going to cause you to wobble, cause you to may even lose your balance. So first rule, slow it down. Second rule when talking about the cambered squat bar, we need to make sure that we're not overloading this too much. Until you get used to this style of bar, until you get used to how this kind of kicks, you want to make sure you're using less weight. But what you don't want to worry about if you're using less weight is that you're not going to be getting a training effect. That's not the case. This is such a new stimulus for so many of you that if you implement this into your program, you won't need to use a ton of weight on it to get a really good benefit. The next thing you need to focus in on is that because the weight is lower and this bar is going to kick you forward and backwards even harder. This is going to force you to stabilize your torso, your upper body, even more. Because if that bar is down low and it kicks me forward, what happens? My hips go back, and now I'm putting more emphasis on my hamstrings and my low back. So we need to make sure that torso is nice and tight, locked in, so you can maintain that good squat position without turning it into sort of a stripper squat, right? So basically, this is a really, really awesome bar that you can implement into your training for many different purposes. I would suggest you check out this video up above of Nate Harvey talking about how to implement this into your training a little bit more, actually going through and working somebody up to a fairly heavy squat utilizing this. So what I'm going to show you now is one of my best uses for this rackable cambered bar for specifically strongman competitors. And I know a lot of strongmen don't get a lot of love on this channel because it's a lot of powerlifting, but I wanted to showcase to you today how I use this in my training to get the most out of my pressing and to boost my ability to push big weights overhead. All right, so I wanted to show a little love to anybody that wants to get a bigger overhead press, but more specifically my strongman competitors in the audience. So this bar might be one of the best bars to use for strongman training. Let me just show you a rep and then I'll explain it. Holy shit. I forgot how hard that was. So if you notice, pressing this bar is brutal because that same oscillation that you get in your squat happens when you're overhead, right? So when that oscillation occurs, you need to lock down that torso, stabilize your entire body, and keep pressing up, locking those triceps out and forcing that bar to stop moving, right? So if we're a strongman competitor, you're always using a log or an axle or a dumbbell, but the fact of the matter is you need to have the ability to stabilize a weight overhead. If you're using a rackable cambered bar to press with, this is going to fight you the entire way up. I'll demonstrate another rep here. So if I'm going to be using these for strongman specifically, I won't go super heavy, right? I'll do these for reps, and I will forcefully drive this bar up to try to get as much oscillation as possible. Lock it out, wait for it to stop moving, control it, same idea. Whole body squeeze, core down nice and tight, stop the oscillation, and bring it down. So there you go. The rackable cambered bar from elitefts. Really, really important bar if you want to get better overhead pressing, but also get amazing strength into your lower body. You can use this for good mornings. You can use it for squats. Hell, you could even do it for front squats, whatever you want it to do. The fact of the matter is, it is not just a powerlifting bar, and it can be used by everybody to get stronger, healthier, and just be more jacked. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe, share it with your friends. On behalf of myself and Jacob behind the camera, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.